Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 10 of What If Naruto Was the Prince of Olympus. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 11 of it, comment down below and let me know. The like goal for this video is 200 likes. So like this video to let me know that you're interested in this series and you want the next part. Check out my new videos of My Hero Academia what ifs in my second channel and give it some love as well. Link is in the description. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Uzumaki, I want to ask you for a favor. What happened here? Artemis asked in confusion with her arms crossed across her chest. She just spent a few minutes searching for Naruto, after finding out that he was enjoying his breakfast at the big house on Heira's table, his now designated table. The immortal hunters immediately headed to the place to meet him. Naruto smiled brightly when a nymph put a delicious bowl of ramen down in front of him, along with a cup of orange juice, his favorite in the morning. Thank you. Naruto smiled at her before turning to Artemis. Good morning Artemis, how do you do? Artemis raised an eyebrow at his cheerful mood, the complete opposite from the other campers' down mood, which was the reason for her question. Did you watch the Capture the Flag game last night, Artemis? Naruto asked, eating his bowl of ramen happily. He pointed to the seat in front of him. Don't just stand like that, I'm sure my mother won't mind. Artemis looked unsure of what to do. Being blown up by a hateful goddess would be the last thing she would want to do in the morning. But she sat down nonetheless, and waited for a few seconds. Nothing happened. See, I told you she wouldn't mind, Naruto said, and used the spoon to eat the soup. Damn, everything the nymphs make is so delicious. This could give my mother's cooking a run for her money, he praised. What happened here? Artemis asked again. You see the boy sitting alone over there with a miserable face? Naruto used his chopstick to point to table 3, where Percy was sitting with a down expression. His name is Percy Jackson, and he is the son of Uncle Poseidon. Seriously? I thought father was the only one that broke the oath, Artemis asked in surprise. She should have known better. Her father and uncles were one of the best examples of a typical male in the world in her opinion. Poseidon definitely broke a young maiden's heart by leaving her alone with a demigod. You didn't watch the game last night. No reason for me to watch it, Artemis said blankly. Plus we were on a hunt last night. The girls are very determined to grow stronger in order to kill you for the humiliation you put them through. Tell them I'll be waiting. Naruto finished his ramen and called for another one, which the nymphs happily obeyed and ran away to make another bowl ramen for him. He preferred the handmade ramen, so the nymphs didn't use magic to summon them. And why are you here? I have a favor to ask of you, she said, looking at Naruto directly in the eyes. I want you to be my training partner from now on. Naruto blinked once, then he blinked twice, his eyes still looking directly at her beautiful silver eyes. Naruto reached out for the glass of orange juice, and put the straws into his mouth, drinking all the fresh liquid in one suck. Excuse me? Naruto suddenly asked, looking at Artemis with an amused smile. Are you seriously the goddess of the hunt is asking a favor from me, a boy? Boy, did I spell it right? Artemis raised her hand and tried to smack him on the head for his childish antics, but Naruto dodged her hand easily. I'm not kidding here, boy. She twisted her tongue, saying the word boy like it was something distasteful. I want you to help me training. And why is that, Artemis? In terms of experience and skills, you are better than me. Naruto said, if you aimed for the kill that night, I would have used my strongest form to defend myself, and our battle would have destroyed this whole country. That is if I used my godly form, Artemis said before folding her arms together on the table. What do you think of my skills in both close and long range combat? I can't judge much about long range since that is not my forte, but I can see that you're an extremely skilled archer. You're able to shoot your arrow faster and with way more accuracy than I can throw my kunai, and only need about a fourth of the time I need to take aim. Yet as far as I can see you never miss. It was the truth. All of Artemis's arrows shot at him until now would have hit the target if not for him catching them first. In close range your agility is amazing, the way you fight is dynamic, and don't let me start with your strength. You gods are insane in this category. In Senna mode I can withstand the impact from falling down on rock spikes from a cliff, and yet you managed to make me feel the force behind your attack, Naruto pointed out. He could still feel the force behind her thunderous punches, and if it wasn't for his Senna mode, his jaw would have been dislocated and a couple of teeth knocked out. Skills, agility, strength, and most of all 3,000 years worth of experience. I don't see any reason for you to have me train with you. But I don't know how shinobi like you fight, Artemis spoke up. You had me by total surprise with this, Sennin mode of yours. Hitting you resembled hitting a rock. Not only that, but you managed to keep up with my speed, which wasn't much of a surprise, since you can move faster. Naruto nodded with a grin. But I can't even read your movements to make out the way you fight. I want to train with you because the next time we fight, I want you to be lying on the ground, under my foot, boy. Is that how you ask for someone's help? Naruto asked. That's how I ask for a boy's help, she pressed. Alright, it's not like I have anything to do other than training these kids. Naruto nodded his head, but I am going to go back to the mortal world tomorrow. Don't worry about that, I can flash you back to this place so that we can spar, and I get the pleasure of beating the hell out of you before you get knocked to the ground again. That's how the story will go. Naruto continued her words and stood up from his seat. And for your information, I can use my power to teleport to camp whenever I want. Can we start now? Artemis asked. She really wanted to punch that smug grin off his face and show him what would happen when a boy disappointed her after she thought so highly of him. Later with that, he disappeared in a flash of yellow before Artemis could grab him. Not a second later, in the emptied movie theater of Olympus, the prince reappeared again in a flash of yellow right at the place he left a Hirshin mark last night for emergency teleportation. Putting his hands into his pocket, Naruto headed to the throne room where the 11 Olympians, save for Artemis, were having a meeting with Hestia sitting in the middle, since taking care of the main hearth was her duty. With everything that happened last night, Naruto didn't feel any surprise when his father called for an emergency meeting like this. Without the need to knock, Naruto pushed open the doors of the throne room and walked in. The tension in the throne room was rather tense. Naruto didn't have to step inside to feel that. Zeus was glaring at Poseidon, and the older brother wasn't affected by the powerful glare one bit. He was also countering it with his own glare. The female goddesses like Hera and Hestia were trying to calm their husband and brothers down. No doubt the two looked like they just had a heated argument with each other. Aphrodite was the first one to step into the throne room and instantly put the makeup equipment she was holding away, fixing her always perfect hair, and smiled brightly at him, at the same time crossing her legs seductively on her throne, waving her hand at him. Naruto only laughed nervously and waved back. Naruto? Hera asked in surprise when she saw Naruto walking in. She was sitting on the throne next to her husband and of course at her full godly height. Hey mom, Naruto smiled at his mother. Naruto, what are you doing here? Zeus asked, finally stopping his glaring match with his brother, and turning to look at his son, who was looking around with his hands in his pocket. Sorry to interrupt Dad, Naruto spoke to the king of the gods, but I'm here to find out the reason why some of the campers and especially Chiron are looking at Percy like he is about to destroy the world, and you're glaring at Uncle Poseidon like he was about to help his son do that. He then turned to Poseidon. No offense, Uncle. Poseidon nodded. It is very complicated, Naruto, Zeus said while shaking his head. Look Dad, not that I don't understand, that you feel threatened by the presence of a son of the big three. Naruto joked and nearly all of the Olympians chuckled at the mention of Zeus's paranoid personality. Children of the big three are stronger than the others, I get it. But as far as I know, you also had a daughter a few years back, right? He knew about the story of Thalia, and how she was turned into a pine tree by their father Zeus, to create a barrier that protects Camp Half-Blood from mortals and especially monsters. Thalia's barrier was one of the most powerful he had ever seen in his life. It showed how strong Thalia's will to protect others was. If not for Senin mode, he would never be able to pass through the camp border. Maybe Thalia's tree recognized him as a natural spirit or something like that, and let him pass. Care to explain, Dad? Naruto asked. Zeus looked thoughtful for a moment before sighing. Naruto, did you know about the oath the big three swore to the Styx after World War II? About never having another demigod again? Naruto's eyes turned to Hestia slightly before nodding. I know, Dad, because World War II was actually the war between your children and Uncle's children against Hades' children. Yes, after the war we both swore to the Styx that we would never have a demigod ever again. Zeus then cleared his throat, glancing slightly to his wife. That is only one of our reasons, because there was a prophecy announced that day, a great prophecy. The king of the god then turned to his other son, Apollo. Apollo, tell Naruto the prophecy. Yes, father. Apollo nodded his head, and began to chant. A half-blood of the eldest gods shall reach 20 against all odds, and see the world in endless sleep. The hero's soul, cursed blade shall reap. A single choice shall end his days. Olympus to preserve a raise. And you think Percy Jackson is the half-blood mentioned in this prophecy? Naruto asked. We tried to prevent this from happening. Apparently neither of them could keep it in their pants. Hera sighed with annoyance, glancing at her husband who was looking a little uncomfortable. Aside from Uncle Hades, Naruto added, thinking about the lines in the prophecy before saying, wait a minute, why do you think that you can stop the prophecy from happening? It's after all a prophecy, right? Naruto asked. He was after all the center of a prophecy announced by an old toad many years ago, and is it just me, or the prophecy did say that the half-blood shall reach 20 against all odds? At least the prophecy said a half-blood. Naruto was also the son of the eldest gods, but he was immortal. At least somehow, we could prolong the time, Athena said while shaking her head. So, we have about 4 years until Percy's 20th birthdays. Naruto said. Yes, Olympus to preserve a raise, by a single choice of a demigod. Zeus sighed. Too many things happened lately. I have to return to Atlantis. Poseidon turned to Zeus and said, Amphitrite will kill me if I don't return soon and explain it to her. Then this meeting is dismissed, Zeus announced, and almost all the Olympians' gods flashed away, all save for Naruto's parents, Hestia, and unfortunately for Naruto, Aphrodite decided to stay as well, and was holding a silver nail file in her hand, fixing her nails, while humming to herself. Naruto Hera walked to him and said with a low tone, making sure Aphrodite couldn't hear their conversation. With the Jackson boy now known as the son of Poseidon, Chiron will definitely give him a quest to search for the lightning bolt. What are you going to do? I will stay put, Mom, Naruto said. The lightning thief and his partner already know about me. If Percy goes on a quest, then I don't think I can lend him any help. Having me go with them wouldn't be a wise choice. His father listened to Naruto's words beside Hera, deep in thought. He wanted his son to be the one who goes on the quest to find his weapon and Hades' helm of darkness, not Poseidon's boy. Are you sure, Naruto? Zeus asked, and Naruto nodded his head firmly. I understand. I will return to the mortal world tomorrow. You know I still have about 3 years left at Harvard, so better return soon, Naruto told his parents. Make sure to keep in touch, my son. Hera smiled at him and stroked his hair gently. And be careful with Aphrodite, she warned him before flashing away with her husband. Instantly Aphrodite jumped from her throne and ran at Naruto, but the blonde was faster. He quickly got to Hesha's side and sat down next to her, much to the love goddess's disappointment. Don't try to force yourself to ignore her, Naruto, Hesha said softly as she used a long stick to stir the fire. Yes, listen to your auntie, Naruto. Aphrodite giggled as she stood right behind him. Go on, she's waiting, Hesha smiled to Naruto. He didn't know if he should feel happy about this or not. His auntie, the person he trusted the most, was encouraging him to get along with Aphrodite, who last night tried to seduce him and nearly crashed his iron will down. Naruto stood up and turned around, facing the woman he feared the most in his life so far, even more so than Kaguya. She was smiling rather seductively, and the dress she was wearing clearly didn't help him at all. So, what do you want? Naruto asked, crossing his arms together. Hang around, have fun. Her hand moved down to her chest, just above her large cleavage, swirling a strand of her curly hair with her finger. Naruto then got an excellent idea, to spend the last day at Camp Half-Blood, before returning to his college life. A foxy smirk appeared on his face. Then I know the perfect place to start. Naruto offered his arm to her, of which Aphrodite happily linked her own with him. We're going to have a lot of fun. He turned away, and grinned evilly, before they both disappeared in a flash of yellow. This is not a date, Aphrodite shouted and punched a punching bag in front of her as hard as she could, which in Naruto's opinion was very girly. This is clearly not a date. Even though in term of power, Aphrodite was stronger than Artemis, because she was more or less the eldest Olympian, born from the flesh of Uranus himself. She should have more strength than the goddess of the hunt herself. And yet, Naruto, being the one who was standing behind the bag, holding it, could barely feel any force from her punches. Did she only use her strength and stamina for her more intimate activities? You never bothered to train yourself, didn't you? Naruto asked. Why should I? Aphrodite asked, glaring at Naruto, her body covered in sweat, and it was somewhat an erotic sight. An extremely busty female boxer. I have my own diet. I can use my power to change my look to whatever I want, and the best one yet. I can't get fat, she said, and punched the bag harder. But Naruto's still standing still. Even his hands holding the bag didn't bother to move. Considering the fact that you only eat ambrosia, the thing that looks like cookies, I can't even see where the diet is, Naruto chuckled. Artemis is not as powerful as you in term of power, but she can take you down faster than you can even blink with her arrow. This time, Aphrodite punched the bag a little harder, and to Naruto's surprise, he was forced back a little bit. You two are always head to head against each other, aren't you? Kind of. Among the Olympians you can say that we're the only two opposite goddesses. We really hated each other. Aphrodite stopped for a bit to wipe away the sweat. I'm the goddess of love, she is the goddess of maidens. She likes to run wild and get dirty in the woods. I like to stay at home and make myself perfect in front of a mirror. I really love the feeling of love, and she absolutely hates it. You see, I always tried to help her end up with someone good, but last time I tried, that boy was stripped naked and hanged in the middle of the Central Park with the panel rapist on his chest. Aphrodite shrugged her shoulder. Kind of harsh, Naruto commented. Not even the greatest prankster of Konoha could think about pulling a harsh prank like that. Really much so, Aphrodite said and began punching again. Did you two ever fight? Naruto asked. I mean, like you annoyed her to the point she couldn't hold it anymore and shoot you with her arrows, chasing you around Olympus. It did happen before, Aphrodite said at the memories, though I'm proud to say I'm the only target that she always missed, or she just purposely missed. I tried to give her a lecture about love, it didn't end well. Try kicking, Naruto told Aphrodite, and she did raise her legs to kick, but she couldn't kick very high, and the force was even weaker than her punch, even though the strength of the legs were 3 times the arm. Try again. Naruto pushed the bag forward, smashing into Aphrodite's body and nearly knocked her off her feet. How could you be such a meanie to me? Aphrodite asked and tried kicking again. Did you ever win against her? Naruto asked her. Tell me the truth, don't be shy about it. No, I always end up hiding somewhere. Aphrodite shook her head. Artemis is violent, harsh, rude to me at least. You want to learn how to fight back? Naruto asked. You completely out of your mind, aren't you? No, I'm not. Naruto shook his head, saying firmly, Artemis asked me to train with her, and as you can see I'm not always free. I'm a college student in the top university of the world. When I finish with her, I can guarantee you that she will be a lot more powerful and dangerous, probably as strong as my father in terms of skills alone. You're absolutely crazy, she's already a monster, Aphrodite reasoned, but wait a minute, don't tell me you're going to place me in this plan of yours as well. Yes, I will need a training dummy for her, Naruto joked, but quickly corrected himself when Aphrodite looked at him with eyes wide in horror and tried to run away. Relax, I was just kidding. Anyway, I will need someone to fight her, someone she absolutely hates, so she won't hold anything back and... No way I'm in this. And... Naruto pressed, someone who also hated Artemis, to be her training partner, and this is where you come into the picture, Naruto said. Look at the bright side. Maybe you can beat some sense of love into her. I will be your trainer, and you will be as strong as her in no time. Aphrodite, I will say it very bluntly, but your children are absolutely useless. Aphrodite looked stunned by his announcement. Not all of them inherited your only useful weapon in the battlefield, charm speak. They didn't bother to train themselves. They didn't care much about the other campers, other than the ones they saw as attractive. Why? Naruto pointed at her. Because of you, their mother, one of the worst examples to follow ever. Sorry to say this, Aphrodite, but if an actual battle start, the cabin who will have the most death will be yours, Naruto said sadly, all because they're like you. Train yourself, grow stronger, to be feared by the others, not all because of your power over love. Naruto said strongly, you care for them, Aphrodite, you immediately claimed your children every time they step into the camp's border. You sent them chocolate every day as well as makeup equipments. Show them that their mother could be something more than just pretty face, so that they can have the courage to push forward, to walk on the equal ground with the other cabins. Do you understand? Yes. Aphrodite cried out and punched the bag as hard as she could, forcing Naruto back a little. I can't hear you, Aphrodite, Naruto roared. Do you understand? Yes. Aphrodite cried out like her throat was about to tear itself apart, gathering all her strength, and punched the punching bag before losing her balance and fell to the ground. Naruto's eyes widened in shock when the top of the punching bag was ripped apart, and the whole thing along with him were sent flying into the opposite wall. Naruto braced himself for the impact, but it came harder than he thought. His whole body smashed into the wall hard, creating a spiderweb crater around the wall. Holy Zeus! Aphrodite cried out and quickly got on her feet, running to him. Are you okay, Naruto? Dear Zeus, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't worry, I'm fine. Naruto looked up at her and scratched the back of his head. That's quite a punch, by the way. Training these two goddesses was going to be so much fun and painful as well. Caitlin Sharp didn't know if she should feel happy or relieved when she saw the blonde who Daniel self-proclaimed himself to be his best friend walk into the class with his trademark orange outfit. Hey Kate, Naruto smiled at her and took the seat behind Caitlin. Naruto, my man, where the hell were you? Daniel shouted happily and opened his arms in a welcoming hug, but Naruto quickly grabbed his face and shoved him back to his seat. Good to see you too, Daniel, Naruto greeted the black-haired boy lazily. How cold? Daniel winced. How did everything go, Naruto? Caitlin asked, turning around to face him. Good, I got everything settled down with my parents. Naruto smiled at her, giving Caitlin a nod. The talk she gave him helped him a lot about how to settle things with his family. I got to see some of my cousins as well, and let me tell you, there was a lot of them. You had fun babysitting them, Naruto? The beautiful model asked teasingly. Of course not, there's noisy as hell, he said and leaned back against his chair. By the way, Naruto, Caitlin reached her hand into her bag and pulled out a colorful leaflet with a picture of herself on it. I already gave this to Daniel, but I think you will be interested in this as well. Naruto looked at the leaflet and read. Do you want to step into the professional world of entertainment? Do you want to be in the same movie with the new icon of Hollywood, Caitlin Sharp? Do you want to know what it feels like to be the male protagonist of a blockbuster movie and loved by our passionate Sharp? Come to the audition at 9 AM this Sunday and see if you're the lucky guy. Sunday, it meant the morning 2 days from now. You want me to come? Naruto asked Caitlin and saw her nod rapidly. Sorry, not interested. The experience during the mission, to protect Koyuki, the princess of Ice Country, was enough to make Naruto to stay away from all kind of film studio. Oh, come on, Naruto, it will be fun. Caitlin tried to change his mind. You already got the look. I will be surprised if the director didn't choose you. Listen to her, Naruto, Daniel said very seriously. Ring of Fighters also featured Caitlin Sharp's first ever nude scene. If you're in, you will be the first male in the existence got the pleasure of. Ouch. Naruto smashed Daniel at the back of his head hard, saving Caitlin from her moment of embarrassment, which her face already as red as tomato. So, you want me in it? He asked, and Caitlin nodded her head. Okay, since I got nothing to do tomorrow, and I'm kind of short on money, I will give it a try. The idol's expression immediately brightened, and she flashed him a 1000-watt smile. Sakura, what happened to you? Naruto shouted in shock, pointing at his pink-haired teammate. Did you get fat after eating too much? You look like Kurenai since a while back. Baka. A pregnant Sakura, Haruno shouted and tried to knock him on his head, but Naruto quickly dodged to the side, avoiding her thunderous fist. I'm not fat, and I'm pregnant. Hester couldn't help but laugh softly at Naruto's complete dumbfounded face. Today was Sunday and Hestia returned to her weekend duty, bringing Naruto back to his world so he could visit his friends. It had been 6 months since Naruto's last visit. Back then, before last year's winter solstice, Naruto returned to his village once every weekend. After the lightning bolt was stolen, Hestia didn't even have time to visit him, let alone bring Naruto to elemental nations, because she was too busy calming her two prideful little brothers down. But now, with things finally settled and more or less returned to normal, Hestia was now free, and she immediately brought Naruto back to his homeland for another visit. The brat is still as stupid as ever, Tsunade Senju sighed as she sat from opposite of Hestia, looking at the scene while shaking her head. But that's how Naruto is. I don't think time could ever change that, Hestia said softly, and the former Hokage of Konoha couldn't help but nod at that. It means I'm carrying a child, Sakura told him, crossing her arms together. For real? Naruto asked with a grin, which then turned into a mischievous smirk. It's Sasuke, isn't it? The pink-haired medic nodded her head, a small blush on her face. I knew it. Naruto cried victoriously. So when did it happen, Sakura? He returned to the village 6 months ago. Well, one thing led to another. The next thing I know, I was pregnant with his child. Sakura told him, blushing. Didn't know that he had it in him, Naruto chuckled. So, is it boy or girl? The girl, we decided to name her Sarada. Sakura then looked at Naruto and smiled softly. Sasuke told me that he wanted you to be her godfather. Naruto's eyes widened slightly at Sakura's announcement. Really? I'm not sure, Sakura. Naruto said unsurely, scratching the back of his head. That is a very huge honor. Don't worry, Naruto, we both want it. Sakura patted him on his shoulder. Then I accept. Naruto nodded before giving Sakura his trademark grin. Thank you, Naruto. Sakura smiled and hugged him. Sarada will be so proud having a great person like you to be her godfather. The pleasure is all mine, Sakura. Naruto then got a brilliant idea. You know what? When I have kids, I'm going to ask you and Sasuke, their godparent. I bet they will love it as well. Speaking of which, I think it's about time you find yourself a girl, Naruto, Sakura said. Did any girls or even goddesses catch your eyes at this earth world? Nah, you can say that I have plenty problem with them, Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. One want to kill me, one want to rape me, you can get the idea. Rape you? Naruto nodded his head at Sakura's question. Who? Is she crazy? Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, Hestia, was the one who said it for Naruto, with a rather amused smile as well. She is also formerly his sister-in-law, but divorced with his older brother a few days ago. She was also the lover of my older brother. Naruto groaned. Well, you can get the idea. Be careful, brat. Tsunade warned him, catching the eyes of the goddess of love and beauty. I don't know if I should congratulate you or not. Anyway, I am going to start with her training today, Naruto said. Artemis asked me to train with her, but I'm not a punching bag and not always free, so I wanted to train Aphrodite, someone Artemis absolutely hates, to be her training partner. Plus this will also be a good impression to her demigod children. Make sure to be careful, Naruto. Sakura nodded her head. I will. Naruto then grinned brightly when Michiraku walked to his table with a massive bowl of ramen with extra fish cakes. Thank you, AMD-chan. Naruto held the chopsticks with his eyes shone brightly. I did, Akamatsu. One thing you should know about us, Artemis, Naruto said as he caught Artemis's ankle, stopping her leg from making contact with his head. He promised to train with Artemis, so here he was, training inside the training field of Camp Half-Blood with the goddess of the moon. Naruto still didn't think that this goddess will need any help from him to grow stronger, since she was someone who got 3,000 years of experience in battle. However, this was also an opportunity to train his body that he couldn't miss. Fighting against an experienced opponent like her would help him a lot. Shinobi don't play fair, Artemis said calmly before the Naruto in front of her disappeared in proof of smoke and was replaced with a wooden log. The goddess then made a backflip, just in time to avoid Naruto's punch coming from the ground underneath her. The goddess jumped back several feet before pulling out her hunting knife, leaping forward with her beautiful sliver eyes hardened. The Kuwani instantly made it to Naruto's hand as he used it to block Artemis's celestial bronze knife. Sparks appeared where the two weapons met, and they both tried to push each other back. Naruto pulled out a tri-pronged kunai just as Artemis brought out another hunting knife with her two hands. Their weapons clashed once again, so fast that the untrained eyes couldn't hope to follow. Naruto gritted his teeth when he was sent back a few feet on the ground by Artemis's violent push, so strong that Naruto felt like he was hit by a whole truck. The goddess of the moon took this opportunity and shot forward with her knife brought back, and when she was close enough, Artemis made a strong cut toward his right shoulder. Naruto nodded his head and raised his arm to block it, and Artemis wasn't surprised when she saw her knife broke when it came to contact with his arms. But not good enough, his eyes changed, and the feeling of nature once again wrapped around Naruto. Senna mode, finally, Artemis said with a smirk, jumping back to make some distance with him. I thought you were looking down on me when you didn't use this form to fight. Look down on you? Of course not, Naruto replied with his own trademark grin. I never look down on my opponents. That will be the last thing I will think about in an actual battle. Very well then, Artemis dropped her knives, including the broken one. I think it's time I push this battle between us to a new level, Artemis charged, and Naruto prepared himself for her fist. Much to his shock, the goddess of the moon got on all fours, and in a blink of an eye, Artemis was no longer the goddess of the moon, but a massive Africa elephant that completely towered Naruto. The elephant charged at a surprised Naruto and crashed into him, sending him flying. Naruto gritted his teeth and turned his body in the air, landing lightly on his 2 feet and looked up. Only to be met with a massive silver wolf leaped at him with its mouth open wide, the teeth ready to bite his head off. Naruto turned to the side, grabbed Artemis's wolf body, and slammed her on the ground, hard enough to crack the ground, but to his surprise the silver wolf got up almost instantly, and used her claws to slash him. Naruto stomped his foot on the ground and jumped back, but the claws managed to get to his shirt, tearing it apart. "Damn it, Artemis," Naruto cried, looking at his torn shirt. "This is my favorite shirt." It was Camp Half-Blood's orange uniform, so more or less they had become his most favorite clothes because of its color. Artemis only replied with a growl, circling around him slowly like a wolf stalking its prey. "Didn't know you have this power," Naruto said, moving cautiously. The wolf was bigger than any hellhounds he had the pleasure to encounter, which spoke volume of how big Artemis's wolf form was. "Let's say, I'm surprised," Naruto smirked. Artemis's eyes widened when he saw his hand put together and went through various strange hand seal. "But, Kichi-say, Yeti Kuzashi no Jutsu," he cried, and almost instantly a huge aquamarine-colored toad with yellow eyes, taller than buildings and trees, carrying 2 huge katanas on his back. An orange sash around his stomach fell down from the sky, right on Artemis's body. All that could be heard from her was a painful howl from Artemis, before the thunderous sound of the gigantic toad falling down to the ground from the sky completely covered her howl. "Good morning, Gamma Hero," Naruto shouted with a massive grin, waving his hand wildly at the toad. "Oh, good morning, Naruto Uzumaki. Is there anything I could help you?" Gamma Hero asked with a grin, completely unaware that he was sitting on a goddess. "Nothing, just summon you for the tradition Yatai Kashi," Naruto grinned mischievously. "You can go now." "Oh, alright, see you." The toad said before disappearing in a massive puff of smoke, returning to Mount Maiboku. When the smoke was cleared, Naruto nearly fell down to the ground, laughing his ass off while holding his stomach, when he saw the pathetic form of the proud goddess of the moon Artemis lying on the ground with her body twitching dramatically. Hearing the laughter, Artemis slowly looked up with a hateful expression on her face, blowing a strand of hair that got front of her face away. She stood up and walked at him. "What the hell was that, Uzumaki?" Artemis roared angrily. It was so humiliated, being sat on by a gigantic toad. "That, dear sister, is one of my jutsu, Kichi-say. Yeti Kuzashi no Jutsu," Naruto grinned toothily. "Basically, I let a gigantic toad fell from the sky, and straight down to your body." Artemis's silver eyes flared with power, summoning her bow and quiver which was full of silver arrows. Hey, wait a minute, you asked me to train with you, didn't you?" Naruto paled at the hateful glare Artemis was giving him. She notched an arrow into her bow, and raised her hands up, aiming at Naruto. "Die." Instantly Naruto took the best option in this situation. He ran as fast as possible. Die, you damn male." Artemis roared and shot a barrage of arrows at Naruto, all aimed for the kill, and Naruto got no other choice, but used both of his hands to dodge, and hit the arrow way before it could impale into his flesh. Now he understood Aphrodite's feeling whenever she was chased after by an angry Artemis. Later that day, Naruto groaned out painfully when he pulled a silver arrow out of his shoulder, throwing it away, while watching the wound from Artemis's arrow slowly closing up thanks to Kurama's help. Even after dodging at least 200 arrows, Artemis still got plenty of them left, and she managed to land one on his left shoulder, which after that she finally got her satisfaction, and returned back to her hunt. "Is there anything I can help you feel better, Lord Naruto?" A green-haired nymph approached Naruto asked with a hopeful tone. "You can get me some ramen, I'm really hungry," he told her with his trademark grin, making the nymph brighten up instantly. "I will bring them to you in a minute, Lord Naruto." The girl bowed her head. Naruto nodded his head, but then his eyes caught something interesting. It was Percy, Annabeth and Grover. All 3 of them were walking toward Half-Blood Hill with Chiron waiting for them with the many-eyes man Argus, his mother's creation. "Make 10 bowls, alright, I will return in a second." Naruto stood up, told the nymph before running to the group. With his speed it didn't take long for Naruto to get close to them. "Oi guys, hey, wait up," Naruto shouted to them while waving his arm wildly. "Hey Naruto." Percy greeted the Prince of Olympus, and the other greeted him as well, with Grover bowing his head as deep as he could to the person who gave out the feeling of nature. "Stand up, Grover, no need to bowl like that," he told the goat boy before looking at Percy. "So, finally goes on the quest to search for the Master Bolt, eh?" "Yes." Percy nodded his head. "We'll bring your father's weapon back, Naruto," Percy said firmly, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. Percy met the oracle. Naruto nodded his head. He knew about that mummy of Delphi, and what it capable of, and she gave him a prophecy about the quest, saying that the stolen will be safely returned, Annabeth explained. "Great," Naruto said with a massive grin. Then when he was about to say again, Naruto felt someone approaching and turned around, seeing Luke running at them while holding a basketball shoes. "Hey man," Luke panted, standing next to Naruto, "glad that I caught you." Annabeth blushed and Naruto couldn't help but make a grin. The Wisdom's daughter always liked this when Luke was around. "Just wanted to say good luck," Luke told Percy, "and I thought, maybe you could use these," and he handed Percy the sneakers before saying, "Maya." "Oh," Naruto Wolf whistled when he saw white bird wings sprouted out of the heels, startling Percy to the point he dropped them. The shoes flapped around the ground until the wings folded up and disappeared. "Hey Luke, got to tell me where did you get them?" Naruto grinned. "Awesome," Grover said in awe. "This is gift from my dad," Luke told Naruto. "Wait, I thought would do shinobi power. Flying is a piece of cake." "Ninja don't fly, genius," Naruto told him blankly. "Anyway, I hope this give you some helps," Luke told Percy, who was blushing brightly. "Hey, man," Percy said. "Thanks." He smiled at Luke. "Listen, Percy. The son of Hermes looked uncomfortable. "A lot of hopes are riding on you. So just kill some monsters for me, okay?" They shook hands with each other before Luke patted Grover's hat between his horns, then gave a goodbye hug to Annabeth, who looked like she might pass out. "See you later, Naruto," Luke said and returned to the camp. After he was gone, Naruto turned to Annabeth and teased her. "You're hyperventilating." "I'm not." The girl hit him slightly. Naruto only laughed at her blushing face. "You let him capture the flag instead of you, didn't you?" Percy asked the girl, which furthered her embarrassment moment. "But why do I want to go anywhere with you, Percy?" She groaned. Percy picked up the flying shoes and then frowned. He then looked at Chiron and asked, "I won't be able to use these, will I?" Chiron only shook his head. "Luke meant well, Percy. But taking to the air, that would not be wise for you." "Oh yes, the rivalry between my dad and Uncle Poseidon." Naruto nodded his head, before turning to Chiron. "Wait a minute, I'm a son of Zeus, then should I swim in the sea?" "I don't think Lord Poseidon will mind your present, Naruto," Chiron said with a smile. "After all, you're in good term with almost all Olympians." "Yeah, almost," Naruto nodded his head, thinking of Ares. "Hey, Grover. You want a magic item?" Naruto then heard Percy ask the goat boy, making his eyes lit up. "Me?" The son of Poseidon then helped Grover putting the sneakers over his fake feet. "Maya!" he shouted. He got off the ground but then fell over sideways, so his backpack dragged through the grass. The winged shoes kept bucking up and down like tiny broncos. "Careful," Annabeth shouted. "Practice," Chiron called after him. "You just need practice." "Bye." Grover went flying sideways down the hill like a possessed lawnmower, heading toward the van. Percy was about to follow when suddenly Chiron caught his arm. "I should have trained you better, Percy," he said. "If only I had more time. Hercules, Jason, they all got more training." "That's okay. I just wish." "What am I thinking?" Chiron cried. "I can't let you get away without this." He pulled a pen from his coat pocket and handed it to him. It was an ordinary disposable ballpoint, black ink, removable cap. Much to Naruto's amusement, it was the same pen Percy used to defend himself against the ugly pre-algebra teacher, before Naruto stepped in and finished her off. "Gee," I said. "Thanks. Percy, that's a gift from your father. I've kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one." Percy took off the cap, and the pen grew longer and heavier as my hand. In half a second, the boy held a shimmering bronze sword with a double-edged blade, a leather-wrapped grip, and a flat hilt riveted with gold studs. "Balance?" Naruto asked. Percy nodded, amazed. "The sword has a long and tragic history that we need not go into," Chiron told him. Naruto was rather curious about this, but shrugged it off. If Chiron didn't want to dug in, then he too shouldn't dug in this matter. "Its name is Anaclysmos." Reptide, Percy translated almost instantly. "Use it only for emergencies," Chiron said, "and only against monsters. No hero should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but this sword wouldn't harm them in any case." Percy looked at the wickedly sharp blade. "What do you mean it wouldn't harm mortals?" "The sword is celestial bronze. Forged by the Cyclops, tempered in the heart of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Lede. It's deadly to monsters, to any creature from the underworld, provided they don't kill you first. But the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blade to kill." Naruto explained it for Chiron, and the centaur nodded his head. He couldn't explain it any better than the prince. "And I should warn you. As a demigod, you can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You are twice as vulnerable." Chiron added. "Good to know." Nara capped the pen. Percy then touched the pen cap to the sword tip, and instantly Riptide shrank to a ballpoint pen again. He tucked it in my pocket, a little nervous. "You can't," Chiron said instantly. "Can't what?" "Lose the pen," he said. "It is enchanted. It will always reappear in your pocket. Try it." Percy nodded before throwing the pen as far as he could down the hill, and watched it disappear in the grass. "It may take a few moments," Chiron told me. "Now check your pocket." Sure enough, the pen was there in Percy's pocket. "Okay, that's extremely cool," he admitted. "But what if a mortal sees me pulling out a sword?" Chiron smiled. Mist is a powerful thing, Percy. Mist? Yes. Read the Iliad. It's full of references to this stuff. Whenever divine or monstrous elements mix with the mortal world, they generate mist, which obscures the vision of humans. You will see things just as they are, being a half-blood, but humans will interpret things quite differently. Remarkable, really, the lengths to which humans will go to fit things into their version of reality. What about Naruto? Percy asked. He's mortal, right? Then how come he can see things very clearly? He's a clear-sighted mortal seaweed brain, Annabeth told him. They're someone who don't have a single drop of godly blood within their spines. Clear-sighted mortal can see past the mist, a feat that not even a half-blood can do. They're very rare, extremely rare. Oh, I see, Percy nodded before putting Riptide back in his pocket. While Percy talked with Chiron, Naruto grabbed Annabeth's shoulder and pulled her a little away from the centaur and the son of Poseidon. Rover got a gift, Percy got a gift. Naruto reached into his pocket and smiled at her. So it is only fair you got one as well. You don't have to. But Naruto stopped her. I hope that I can help you 3 more on this quest, because I have a feeling that everything won't go like how you think it to be. Naruto pulled out a tri-prongs kunai, and gave it to Annabeth much to her surprise. Here, take this. A kunai? Annabeth asked and looked at the kunai. It was the strangest kunai she had ever seen, and was very different from the usual kunai Naruto used to train her. This kunai is very special. Now listen carefully, Annabeth. When you're in danger, Naruto said with a serious tone. The 3 was about to go on a quest to find his father and Uncle Hades' power, which meant sooner or later they would meet Ares. While Ares was weak compared to the other Olympians, 2 demigods and the satyr of course stood absolutely no chance against him. They would need his help when the time come. Pray to Hestia. What? Annabeth was confused. Why? Just do it alright. When you 3 are in danger, Naruto told her. I will. Annabeth nodded and put the kunai away. Thank you, Naruto. Annabeth smiled at him, and the blonde patted her head. Be careful, and make sure to use your brain to take care of those boys, alright? Naruto told her. After that, the trio got into the SUV belonged to the camp, where Argus was waiting. Chiron returned to his centaur form, and held his bow high in salute, while Naruto raised his hand and waved. I hope everything went well, Chiron said when the car drove off. Don't worry, Chiron, those kids got everything they need. Naruto smiled and turned on his heel. What are you going to do now, Naruto? What time is it, Chiron? 10 o'clock, why? The centaur asked, confused. About damn time, Naruto said with a smirk before disappearing in a flash of yellow. Aphrodite's palace, Olympus. The goddess of love hummed a soft tune to herself, while sitting in front of a mirror lying on her makeup table, using a silver comb to gently comb her perfect long golden hair. It was so peaceful like this. She was freed from the unwanted marriage with Hephaestus, meaning that she could now go on a quest to search for her true love without anything holding her back. She also broke up with Ares. He now finally stopped visiting her palace, asking for sexual relief regularly like before, giving her even more times to take care of her duty before finally free, having plenty of times to seduce her favorite son of Zeus and Hera. Aphrodite. The goddess of love flinched in shock, nearly jumped out of her seat at the thunderous sound of someone knocking the door of her palace. It's time for training. Her eyes widened when she finally recognized Naruto's voice and looked at the clock. It's time already? She asked in surprise and stood up from her chair. Then, a mischievous smile, which could only promise trouble for Naruto, appeared on her face, after giving a view at the state she was in. Smiling seductively, the goddess of beauty walked to the door like a queen, her hips swayed side to side sexually. Naruto stood waiting patiently outside of Aphrodite's palace. Yesterday the goddess of love agreed with Naruto's training schedule, started at 10 o'clock every morning. With Artemis he only needed to fight her, but with Aphrodite she would need a proper training. Naruto already knew how to stir her courage and confidence up. The only thing left was teach her how to fight properly. Finally, Naruto turned his eyes back to the palace when he saw it was slowly opened, but his eyes nearly bulged out of his skull when he saw the state Aphrodite was in. The goddess of love simply wore nothing other than a pair of lacy black lingerie, with her large breasts supported by nothing but a tiny bra that looked like it was about to bust under the strain from her watermelon-sized chest, revealing a large amount of the top of her cleavage. Her choice for the bottom was a skimpy, overwhelming revealing thong, but of course Naruto didn't know what it called. Good morning, Naruto, Aphrodite said sultrily, leaning against the door with one hand on her hip. Naruto watched as her tits jiggled at the sudden movement. Clearly those bra did nothing to hold her large chest from doing erotic action. You know, I don't think charm speak is her most powerful weapon, Kurama reminded him, and do remember why you put this goddess the most dangerous Olympian. He said nothing, only put his hand together and went through the hand seals needed for another summoning. After finishing with Artemis, Naruto didn't think that he would need to use this jutsu for the second time of the day. Aphrodite looked at Naruto's hands moved in interest. Did she say no jutsu? Naruto shouted and slammed his hand on the ground, making kanji to spread around the palm, and engulfed the blonde in a cloud of smoke shortly after. Yo? Aphrodite screamed out in shock and disgust when a massive orange toad wearing blue vest and bandage wrapped around his waist appeared, smoking cigarette and wielding a massive tanto in his hand, with Naruto sitting on top of them with his legs crossed together. Toad. Freaking toad. Aphrodite screamed out in fear and ran inside. How could a disgusting toad got so big was out of her imagination, but right now, all the goddess of love cared about was running away from it as fast and as far as possible. Ushi Naruto, why so loud in the morning? Gamakichi thundered, turning his eyes to look at Naruto. Aphrodite, a very girlish goddess, Naruto said in his first language before pointing his finger to her palace, which completely towered over by Gamakichi's size. The toad was also drawn a lot of attention from the citizen of Olympus as well. Grab her. You got it. The now boss of the toad brought out his incredible long tongue, and it moved inside Aphrodite's palace through the front door. Naruto couldn't help but chuckled when he heard another scream. Ah yes, I got her, Gamakichi said before pulling his tongue back, bringing Aphrodite out of her hiding place. She was struggling with Gamakichi's tongue wrapped around her body, her legs kicking wildly to get free. Let's go of me, you disgusting creature. She screamed like a banshee. Aphrodite, Naruto said, smirking, meet Gamakichi, and the toad's boss, my pal. Yo. Gamakichi greeted her, and it wasn't like the love goddess could understand what he and Naruto was saying. This will teach you a lesson for forgetting about the training's time, Naruto said with a grin. Gamakichi will also join the training with us. I have a feeling that with him around, you won't try to run away. Aphrodite could only gulp nervously. Okay Gamakichi, Naruto said to the toad, can you bring us to Mount Maiboku? Of course I can. Talk about Gamakichi and his ego. Gamakichi exploded into a cloud of smoke, returning to Mount Maiboku, and also brought Naruto and Aphrodite with him. Aphrodite Naruto smiled as he stood on top of Gamakichi, with a fully clothed Aphrodite right beside him, struggling to stay on the head of the gigantic toad. Welcome to Mount Maiboku. Even though Aphrodite wasn't in the mood for sightseeing, the love goddess couldn't help but gasp in awe at the land of the toads. This is amazing. Aphrodite had never seen such a rich and beautiful land like this in her life. The place completely surpassed any lands on Earth in terms of nature. It sure is, Naruto smiled. Is this how you impress a girl, Naruto? Aphrodite asked teasingly, leaning against him, cause it's working. Yeah, keep trying, Naruto replied blankly. A few minutes later, the trio arrived at an area where there was a fountain pouring a strange colored water that looked like oil, and a lot of toad statues came in various sizes around the place as well. This is it, Naruto grabbed Aphrodite and jumped down from Gamakichi's head. You will train here, Aphrodite. Here? She asked in surprise. There are certain rules that you must follow while you're here, Naruto said, and pointed his hand to the lake and fountain. Whatever you do, don't touch that oil. Why? Because that oil will turn you into a toad. Aphrodite paled instantly. This is the place I trained to become a senin, or sage in your language. I use this oil during the training to help me absorb the natural energy. Without a proper training, anyone who touch it will be turned into toad and become a statue shortly. Aphrodite nodded in awe. That would explain why Naruto's eyes became toad-like whenever he got to that form. Second, treat these statues with care and respect, Naruto said seriously. Goddess or not, these are all Gamakichi's ancestors, and of people who tried to learn senjutsu, but failed and was turned into toad statues. You mean, they used to be human? Aphrodite asked in shock. Now she just wanted to stay away from the oil fountain. I don't know what will happen when goddess like you touch the oil, but we better not try our luck, Naruto said before walking to stand in front of Aphrodite. Today we'll start with your physical strength. Got to find some use in that enormous godly strength of yours. What do I need to do? Aphrodite asked. Without saying, Naruto walked to the nearest toad statue and entered Senin mode. He crouched down and put his hand on the leg of the toad, before lifting it up effortlessly. Naruto carried the toad statue to the other side of the area, and put it down very carefully before turning back to Aphrodite, who was gasping. You need to move all the statues over there. Naruto pointed his hand to the other side of the field. Two over here. Aphrodite's eyes opened wide as dinner plates, and remember to treat them with respect. Seriously? Those statues must weigh over a ton or more. Aphrodite cried. Gamakichi, Naruto called, and the toad's boss brought out his tongue. Alright. Aphrodite quickly ran over to the nearest statue, the smallest one, and lifted it up, walking to the other side with heavy steps. Train hard, Aphrodite, Naruto said loudly. Your children is counting on you. It was Sunday, 9 o'clock in the morning. It was the time for Ring of Fighters audition. This audition's purpose wasn't just for finding the young actors for the film, but also a part of a program to find a new, young and potential talent for the professional entertainment world as well. So of course, very soon in the morning many people gathered into lines in front of the studio even before the auditions start. Naruto arrived at the last minute, right before the gate closed up. Many of them, of course, were boys around his age, and they got here hours before to be able to get ahead of the rest. This wasn't just an opportunity to become famous and try their luck in the entertainment world, but also a chance of working with the new icon Caitlyn Sharp as well. And on Daniel's words, the first male on the planet could get his eyes on her naked glory. The crowd was sorted into two groups, boys and girls, but the boys were also sorted into many more smaller group of 15. Naruto stood at the bottom of his group with his hands in his pockets, waiting patiently for his group turn. He was rather curious about the audition, about what kind of tests they're going to put him through, and what kind of requirements he needed to be chosen. Naruto waited and waited. Luckily enough he wasn't a demigod, or else ADHD would kill him. At last, after 2 hours of waiting, it was High Group's turn. Naruto walked in the studio and got on a stage, writing his name down a register book. The secretary waiting outside Naruto, then stepped into a stage. He saw Caitlyn. The girl was sitting beside a middle-aged looking man with a mic in his hand, talking with him with a low tone. Her hair was tied into a large braid at the back of her head. Wearing casual clothes consisted of a black shirt, denim jacket and long jeans that hugged her long legs nicely. He could see John standing at the other side of the stage. Caitlyn's bodyguard was always on guard, and around her anytime, anywhere. "Okay boys," the man said, using the mic to have his voice become louder. "Caitlyn will give each of you a copy of the extract of the film script." After he saying that, Caitlyn stood up and took a stack of papers from the secretary standing near them, and gave each one of them a copy. Also flashed them a beautiful smile. When she gave Naruto's the copy, Caitlyn winked before slipping a small piece of paper to him, before heading to the next boy. Naruto looked at the piece of paper in amusement. "Do your best, Naruto-kun." Opening the piece of paper, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle silently when he saw Caitlyn's words for him, which was written neatly in Japanese. "Okay, give the copy a look and wait till your name is called," the director said before turning to Caitlyn. "So that's your boyfriend?" he asked teasingly, motioning his head to Naruto. "He's not my boyfriend, director," Caitlyn defended with a blush on her face. "You're right, overall he definitely the one we're looking for," the director said with a smile. "But will he has what it takes to earn a role in the movie? We will see about that." "I'm sure he will," Caitlyn nodded her head, smiling at Naruto, who was looking at the film script with a look of shock on his face. "What the fuck?" Naruto screamed inside of his head, his eyes glued to the film script. "This is, you're kidding me, right?" "Next, Naruto Uzumaki." The director called out his name, and Naruto walked on the stage, being the last person whose name was called. Overall, the director was unimpressed by this group, because Caitlyn would step on the stage and act with them as well. None of the boys before Naruto was able to stop stuttering and acting like a professional actor. They even wasn't able to take their eyes away from the film script and more or less read the whole things out loud. He didn't need Robot for this masterpiece of him. He already fought a lot with other studios just to have Caitlyn in this movie. He needed someone who could actually act and be professional. And his eyes whitened when the blonde-haired boy stepped onto the stage without the copy of the film script. And, action, the director called when Naruto stood in front of Caitlyn. Naruto turned to Caitlyn and took a deep breath. This shouldn't be too hard for him. He would play as Sean Housen, the main character of the Ring of Fighters, and Caitlyn was going to play as Sarah Jones, the daughter of the host of Ring of Fighters, the worldwide underworld MMA, and also the most powerful mafia boss in the world. When he saw the world MMA in that film script, Naruto's interest perked up and thought how right he was when he agreed to come here. However, what shocked him the most was the dialogues in the film script. Though the parody, Kurama said inside of his mindscape. Just like how she acted before, this time, Caitlyn was also in full professional actress mode. She lowered her face and tears began to flow from her eyes. If this girl was born at Elemental Nations, she could seriously be one of the top kunoichi in deception. "Sean, I beg you," she sobbed, please bring my brother back." This part of the film was exactly like when he was about to leave for Sasuke's rescue mission, and Sakura come to him before the team could leave the village. "I couldn't do it, I couldn't stop them from taking my brother away," her shoulders shaking. "The only person who can probably save Kevin now is you, Sean." She looked at him, "Only you," and her eyes clearly reminded Naruto about the day he made that lifetime promise to Sakura. "Let's start," Naruto thought to himself, before lowering his face, forcing a smile to his face, before smiling at her. "Having a family, a brother to love is great, isn't it?" he asked. The dialogues were a bit different, but everything was basically the same. "I know how much pain you're in right now, with your father murdered and your little brother taken away by them," he said. "I can understand." "Sean." She sobbed even louder, using her hands to wipe away the tears. "Don't worry," Naruto said with his trademark grin. "I will bring him back." He gave her a thumb up. "It's a promise of a lifetime." And cut. The director shouted and stood up from his seat, clapping his hands loudly. "Brilliant, simply brilliant." Thanks." Naruto scratched the back of his head while smiling. "Wow, you surprised me, Naruto," Caitlyn said in amazement, wiping away the last of her tears. "You got a lot potential to become a great actor, you know." "Thanks," he grinned at her, before walking down the stage. "You're a young man," the director announced loudly. "You acted like you're actually Sean, promising to save Sarah's little brother." That smile, it was so real. "Your words weren't even a forced one." He grabbed Naruto's shoulders and shouted, "I need you in this." Wow, no need to overreact like that, Director Caitlin giggled. Say, young man, do you know how martial arts? He asked. Yes sir, Naruto nodded his head with a grin. I'm also a big fan of MMA, sir. Brilliant. Caitlin was pulled toward Naruto by the director. Now Miss Sharp, now is the time for you two to get to know each other more, because in a few days when we start filming, you two will have a lot of scenes together. Caitlin blushed brightly, and Naruto only laughed nervously. Further information will be sent to you soon, Uzu. Can I call you Naruto? Naruto nodded, and the director walked away after patting Naruto on his shoulder. So, Naruto looked at Caitlin, who instantly turned to her bag and pulled out a document. This is the full film script, she told Naruto. It is very uncomfortable to talk about some of the scenes inside, so you should just read this. Naruto nodded and took the script. Congratulations by the way, Naruto. Yeah, thanks, he nodded. Say, are you hungry? Crying hundreds of times probably took a lot from you, right? The girl nodded. I know a really good restaurant. Do you want to come? If you still have that hat of yours, then yeah, why not? Caitlin smiled and the two walked out of the stage. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.